Uh, right, let's go. Right, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the Dysfunctional Fitness Podcast. You're obviously joined today by myself, Matthew Hosking, and Ben Bodycom. Quarterfinals is over, so we're recording this on the Monday following quarterfinals. The plan is we're just going to basically go through each test one by one, give our thoughts and opinions on the workouts themselves, maybe look at some scores, maybe break down our own attempts at them. And then after that, we'll just go through the overall standings from the European and UK standpoint. But yeah, we'll get into it really. So Ben, workout, well, we should go overall thoughts quickly. Like when you first initially saw the workouts come out, what were you thinking?
So I was in a work meeting Thursday night and thought everything was coming out at 8. So I was like, right, I'm going to get out of this meeting at 10 to 8. I'll be able to sit and digest everything. I checked my phone halfway through the meeting and realized I've just got a lot of notifications. I was like, I think the workouts are out. I then go through and have a quick look through them, and all I see are everyone just going crossovers, what the wall facing handstand push-ups, what that, and everyone just sort of losing their minds a little bit. V-ups, etc., etc. So I didn't really have a chance to digest. Eventually, sort of got home around about 8:30, started to read through them, try and comprehend them, and try and put them in a sort of position. And I think the first thing that you and I both said is talking about how what's the phrase I'm looking for? How there wasn't anything that you could really hurt on, that you could send it and you could completely die in a workout, really, depending on where the workout finished for you as an individual. Because the first workout is just pressing capacity. The second workout was, and I've completely forgotten what the second workout was.
Jump rope skills.
Oh yeah, it was just jump rope skills.
Crossovers.
Yeah, I'm not going to forget that in a hurry.
Yeah.
The third one was essentially...
the third one was the heavy weight.
Yeah. Fourth was midline capacity in an extended time frame. And then the final one was pulling capacity. So, yeah, very, very much grip. So it was a very different set of quarterfinals. I was expecting to have those things present, but I wasn't expecting them to be the determining factor of how you performed within those workouts. I think is how I saw it. How about you?
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. When they came out, I was like, this is surprising, but also we should have not been surprised because we literally just talked about how from the open, this is Boz's take on how programming should be now for CrossFit. And then it just made sense at the same time. It's just heavy-ish moderate weights with higher skill gymnastics, with the higher skills in terms of the crossovers as well. And the V sit-ups, just going, because this is a thing, to some people listening, all this stuff might be new and to them this is not CrossFit, but I bet you Boz would argue this is actually classic CrossFit. This is what CrossFit was back in the early 2000s before any of us were even doing it or even knew what it was. So for him, I bet he thinks this is going back to basically the origins of what it should be. But for other people that got so used to the way Castro used to do it, that to them, this is all new. So I think while it is new to us, it's probably stuff that Boz is you should have been still working on this type of stuff, basically. And none of this should actually be that surprising. And I think CrossFit's not all about high output, pain, threshold work all the time. It's actually about who's got some decent skills. And perfect example is that classic 10 general physical skills that original CrossFit preachers. I can't remember who was going through. I think it was on Savon podcast, but they basically said these tests cover all of those and better than any other type of programming ever has done. And it was similar at the games this past year. Last year, same thing, tackling the coordination, the agility and all that, that ties into these type of tests more so than what we've classically seen where, it's just rowing with wall ball couplets or, burpees and barbells. So, it's just been interesting.
And I think you've touched on an interesting point there, which is that now I think skill acquisition takes time, right? And capacity within particular skills takes time as well. If you look at something like Amanda in 2011, was it? I want to say, or 2010, whichever year they did it at the games. That was a really tough workout. Now it's not that at all. It's a sprint. It's a sprint chipper. Like it's a sprint workout for people to get through.
Yeah, I would literally argue, that Amanda workout back then would be the equivalent of what this first workout was from this quarters in terms of you're going to be breaking up the barbell, like maybe, and the gymnastic skill was going to be such a big separator. You're going to be doing like 3s and 2s. Whereas, as you say now, for the elites, that's literally touch and go, almost unbroken, basically. Just a completely different type of workout. And just says how far we've developed as a sport. And now for us to get back to that style of testing, it just needs to get to a different level, which is what we saw in quarters, basically.
Yeah. And I think it's just that, like, we're not used to getting that level of testing at this level, I'd probably say. I mean, to be fair, like we've seen the evolution of it throughout the time that we've been here. Like, I mean, what was the year with the 50 strict handstand push-ups? Was that 2018? I want to say. Is it 18.3?
2018. Might be 19.3. I think 18.3 was the deadlift one. I think 18 was my first open.
Yes.
It might be 19.3. Was the 200 foot, lunge.
Yeah, 19.3.
And then the 50 box step ups, and 50 strict. Yeah.
And that was something similar at the time, where people were just like, "What? That's a crazy amount that you have to get through." And now it's something completely different. Now it's like, okay, well, like we're just raising the standard of the sport, which I think is exciting. Like, would I have liked to have been a little bit more telegraphed? Yes, please. But it's still I think it's an exciting development for the sport, and I'm really looking forward to seeing where it gets to.
I also find interesting is that, so basically, none of this also should be that surprising in terms of the movements. Like people moaning about the wall facing and the V sit-ups and the crossovers, but at the same point, people watched the games last year. They saw all these newer gymnastic skills. Everyone themselves say, "Oh, this is probably going to transfer down through the different tiers of competitions. We might see some simple things like in the Open." We didn't get that in the Open, so I think people then automatically thought, "Oh, it's not come up in the Open, so actually it's not going to come up this year." And then we get it in the quarters, and people are like losing their minds. It's like, well, I feel like people were more mentally prepared to see this in the Open, and just because it didn't come up, they're like, "Oh, now it's going to get the normal stuff we used to." And Boz was like, "Well, actually, no, here you go." And then I think people just got humbled by just like things that actually are fairly simple if you're trying to keep on top of it in your training. But yeah, I don't know. It was just interesting. I don't think any of it was that bad, but obviously we'll get into it. There's still classic, CrossFit in itself, as in like some movement standards for some new movements that probably just are weak. But I think overall they're actually all right workouts. But
I enjoyed doing them. If I'm like, because I think it's probably wise for us to sort of pivot and talk about how we coped with the weekend, how we felt it went. Obviously, you and I are probably at very different ends of the spectrum from a quarterfinal perspective, where one of us is my goal this year was to complete the Open without injuring myself and without being broken. And I've done that, made it through to quarterfinals, completed quarterfinals, injury-free, touch wood. Hopefully nothing happens in the next 2 days. Whereas yourself, I'll speak for you. I think your goals are a little bit significantly loftier than my own. And you had probably put a decent bit of pressure on yourself to say, right, okay, like, I want to perform really, really well. Let's see where I can get to. So I'll give the audience that sort of context prior to us diving in and talking through each test in turn. So for me, test one was how quickly can I do 9 front squats at 102 and then just kick up on my hands for the next 14 minutes. Because some of us banked on the handstand walks not being in the Open, and so put very little time into learning them over the course of the year. I am one of those people who completely neglected to put any time or effort into acquiring that skill. Needless to say, that will change going forward. So yeah, that for me was like, obviously you see that first workout, you kind of hope that there's going to be some sort of capacity prior to handstand walking going into it. But I've got no qualms with how it's
just to don't know what it is.
Yeah. Go ahead.
It was 9 front squats at the heaviest weight, which was 225 for the guys, 155 for the ladies. And they had the 9 handstand walk lengths of 25 foot. They had to be unbroken. Then you had the 15 front squats at the middle weight, which was 185 for the guys to 125 for the ladies, into 15 ring muscle ups. And then you had 21 front squats at the lightest weight, which was 135 for the guys, 95 for the ladies, and then into 21 chest to wall handstand push-ups, or basically just wall facing handstand push-ups. But yeah, so what Ben was just saying at the start, he had the 9 front squats, and then the battle for him was, could he conquer the handstand walk?
I mean, if I'm honest, if it hadn't been 25 foot unbroken, like I'd have probably got to 25 feet, because I could have just kicked up a couple steps, kicked down, kicked up a couple steps, kicked down, kicked up, etc., etc. Just a Medeiros my way to the.
I did love that standard. I've waited for a while for it to be something like that, just because I know for not to poo on people who can't do them, but you can actually scam your way through handstand walks if you don't have them. Whereas if you do 25 foot unbroken, that actually proves you got at least some bit of capacity in them. So I quite like that standard this year. Obviously, it's all relative. Depends what level you're at. I can understand people being upset with it, especially at the start of a workout. But we'll get into that. There's some other features in some of the other workouts that might also be quite interesting for how they started. But yeah, so any other thoughts on how you did then in that workout?
I mean, yeah, I could have front squatted a little bit faster. I think it took me 36 seconds to get my 9 front squats. But I haven't been.
Was there tie-break time in that?
There was a tie-break time in that. Yeah, the tie-break was the time that you last finished the barbell. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, as indicated by that question, Mr. Hosking clearly didn't know there was need for a tie-break time, so he must have finished the workout. So do you want to walk us through how it went for you?
Yeah. I don't know. It was it was probably disappointing. It was a very disappointing start to the weekend, put it that way. It was going very swimmingly. I'd watched Ben Smith at breakfast with his attempts, finishing in just under 9 minutes, and it was 8:59. And he was moving at quite casual speeds, but obviously I knew in my head, that is still Ben Smith. He's one of the GOATs, and yeah, he's not the same as he was back in the day, but he's still really good. I was so if he's done it in 9 minutes, I think sub 10 will be a very good goal. So I literally took his plan. He broke up the barbell into, I believe, 3 sets. He just moved nice and smooth on the handstand walks. I think he did the rings in 3 sets as well, maybe 2. And then the hands and push-ups was quite impressive. He did, in the moment, I didn't think much of it, but now looking back, quite impressive. He did 14-7 or something. So I pretty much took his paces, adjusted it to my strategy. And I was right, sub 10 will be, I think, pretty respectable. And yeah, so it comes down to it. I'm doing it, all going good. Get to the wall at 7:45. And then I basically just melted on the wall facing handstand push-ups. It took me about 4 minutes to do them and finished in 11:51. So almost 2 minutes slower than what I was pretty much aiming for. So yeah, in the moment, that was quite frustrating. It is what it is. Just something you've got to get better at, really. It's just frustrating in the moment when you think you've got a better capacity than what you're putting out during the workout. And then you also know, in this situation, you're not going to redo it. Time slipping away. You just know that you're just falling down. You're just losing points. But yeah, again, you can't do anything. If you give your best effort, there's not really too much to be upset about. It's just a reflection of where you are. You can't literally do much more than your best. But yeah, I think it was a good workout. It definitely came down to those handstand push-ups, because I did it with Alex, who's the owner at the CrossFit gym I work at, and he did it with me, and he got to the wall I think almost a minute after me, but he did all 21 unbroken and finished in about 9:40 something. So he's very, very good at handstand push-ups. Any handstand push-up workout, he pretty much wins. He's built for them quite well as well, which helps, but he's just got great capacity. So he paced it very well. So he even said he knew if he got to the wall even a minute after me, he'd probably still have a chance to get me, which he did quite comfortably in the end. But yeah, I think just that, literally that example in itself just showed that for most people who were planning on finishing the workout under the time cap, it was just the handstand push-up capacity. Because I know a few other people who got to the wall with plenty of time. Literally, a lot of people got there with like 5 minutes to go, well, 5, 4, 3 minutes to go, and they still like all struggled to get it done in that time cap. Had another mate, Ben, do it after us. Exactly the same thing. Got to the wall. He's very good at handstand pushes as well. So I thought he might be able to pit me on that one. And he got to the wall about, I'm going to say, a minute slower than I did. I was like, well, he's probably better. So he might take, I don't know, 2 to 3 minutes on these. And he still also took 4 minutes on them. And he also was very surprised at like just the amount of shoulder fatigue that built up so quickly in such a small amount of reps. But yeah, it was just interesting. I think one thing looking back at it is, I think the wall walk into the reps does add up a bit more than people think, especially if you're trying to do small sets. So I was opening up with a 4. My plan was to go 3 sets of 4 and 3 sets of 3, and that'd be 21 done. And then it went 4, 3, and I think did 2s. And then I had a fail in then one of the 2s, and I was just doing like 5 singles to the end. But with that wall walk requirement up into each one, you're basically adding, well, in total, how many sets I probably did? About, I don't know, at least 10 to 12 sets. So that's another 12 extra wall walks that people might not consider, which is actually 12 wall walks on a good EMOM pace would be about 2 minutes of time. So that was just something looking back also that actually played a factor. I still think the workout was good. And then, like the separation was ridiculous between like the elite scores and then like filtering down through the leaderboard. So I do want to watch some of those videos because some of the paces were crazy.
But I think that, and the one thing I want to touch on about this one, this workout in particular, is that this is now this is a telegraphed part of quarterfinals where it pretty much comes down to the last movement within the workout. So if you look at 2021, the workout, the first workout was 3 rounds of 10 strict handstand push-ups, 10 dumbbell hang power cleans, and 50 double unders. Rest exactly 1 minute. Then 3 rounds of 10 kipping handstand push-ups, 10 dumbbell shoulder to overhead, and 50 double unders. Then 2022, we had dumbbell walking lunges, 30 kipping handstand push-ups, more lunges, deficit kipping handstand push-ups, overhead walking lunges into strict handstand push-ups. And I think a lot of people got to the that final set of strict handstand push-ups, and it was exactly the same thing, where they were breaking them down in singles. They never sort of felt fatigue like that before, and so I think that's something that we're seeing is becoming given higher and higher priority within the sport. So just something to look at and try and be objective about going forward as well.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, you saw it in the open as well, that first workout, the separation for everyone was at the muscle ups. So it's like, I mean, it's been a bit of a theme in most workouts, I feel like. But yeah, this was definitely exaggerated a bit more this year, especially in that first workout. Yeah. Right, we'll go on to workout 2, which was either the most controversial or the second most controversial, depending which movement you liked or the most. So it was the 12-minute AMRAP of 8 dumbbell snatches on one arm into the 8 overhead walking lunges on that same arm. Then you switch arms, 8 dumbbell snatches again, and then 8 overhawking lunges again on that same arm, and then 40 crossovers. They were just singles. And the weight for the ladies was 50-pound dumbbell, and the weight for the guys was a 70-pound dumbbell. Yeah, I think when this one came out, as you said, the text messages that you're getting was probably a lot aimed at those crossovers. Yeah, I think when they came out, I remember sending screenshots of them to our coach's chat, and they didn't. At first, I don't think they believed me that these are the workouts, because they came out at 7, obviously, and everyone thought they're coming out at 8. So they thought I had just found them from like some dodgy website. I was just like, look, guys, these are the workouts. But they actually were the workouts. And I think the 40 crossovers, just threw a massive wrench in there. We'll get into it, but it definitely was a huge factor for how people did the workout. Like, it's just, there's literally no way to argue it wasn't. It was literally the workout, basically, if you had the capacity in them or not, or the skill. We didn't say capacity, you just had the skills.
I wouldn't even say that.
Basically,
I would say if you had the right rope.
I don't know. You don't need the right. I think that's a bit of a cop-out answer, to be honest. But
wow,
a lot of elites were all using slightly different ropes. But
yeah, but
we just use the cheap gym ropes that we just use for classes. Like, we have nice, like Andrew's found those ropes, and they weren't good for crossovers, but we're like, this probably be fine. And rope, obviously a good rope does help for that instance, but I wouldn't, you still just have the skill. It's like saying double unders, because you can use loads of ropes for double unders. And obviously some ropes are better than others.
Yeah, but I
think talk about the beaded rope would help, but
I think,
as Bill Gunn said, people just need to strap up, just be an athlete, and actually just get on with it.
Yeah, but I'm not an athlete. Okay, I am so far from an athlete. All right. If anyone I went to school with listens to this,
that might be the first. I mean, the first problem then.
Yeah, I know. I can't
athletic sport.
Yeah, you and I both know CrossFit is not an athletic sport. The reason I chose CrossFit is because I don't have to be an athlete for it. All right, that's the prerequisite for this sport. But I
only move up and down, never side to side.
Exactly, no lateral movement. I move laterally. I tear my groin. In all honesty, to me, I think it did make a significant difference. So I bought a beaded rope. Like, we started doing it as part of some of our training, like a couple months back. So I bought a beaded rope, and we were trying the crossovers, but we were mainly focusing on trying to do crossover double unders and all that stuff. And it's only until you have to do it in a competition that you start to think seriously about something, I think. And this is the thing that is the lesson that I'm taking away from this, is that we'd have a play around with it, give it a go, but you wouldn't be sitting there addressing, okay, why am I finding these difficult? What is the issue here? And if I've got a beaded rope, but if that beaded rope is a foot longer, then I'm all right. And that was so I ended up using a weighted RX Smart Gear rope, as in one of the which is why it took me a while, and there was some pain during that workout. But I was like, I just couldn't get into a rhythm with it. I couldn't get into any sort of consistent rhythm with it, and that's really what I struggled with. The dumbbell was fine. The dumbbell was just what the dumbbell was. Split it up 4-3-1, I think, for each arm, and then the one would lead straight into the overhead walking lunge, and then just be where I was at on the crossover single unders. But you hear people saying, look, like, I was able to just pick up the rope and I'd be able to just knock out like 40 odd or whatever. And then it turns into the workout that we were talking about at the start that we felt was missing, which is the capacity workout. It does just become a capacity workout at that point, and how hard you can push within that workout overall. Just with a slightly heavier dumbbell than I think we probably expect.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, obviously, yeah. So again, the crossovers were the main key to that workout. The thing I did like, actually, okay, it was a difficult movement, but also it, like, in the moment, it challenged a lot of people who could basically calm themselves down and mentally keep their head on, because you just had to accept you're going to trip. I think the better and the quicker you accepted that, it's true though, like the quicker you accepted that, the quicker you get back into your next set, and you wouldn't get as frustrated if you kept tripping. You just accept that everyone's going to be tripping. It's going to be very unlikely you're going to do big chunks, and just keep moving through it. And then when you get back to dumbbell, just try to get back on it quickly and get moving again. like for me, I was holding set, like my best set I think was like 30, and I think my worst set was maybe like an 8. So like it wasn't like anything special, but just kept moving. I quite liked it in terms of, again, while doing it's like it was not gassy, but you had to almost control your heart rate and focus while doing it. Obviously, in the moment, you still be like, I wish I was a bit more proficient at this, so then I could push it and turn it into more of like a true capacity test rather than just having to worry about this jump rope. But yeah, I kind of liked it. I know it's an odd movement and people were a bit salty that it came out, but I think, again, give it a year. People, if they don't practice it, that's their fault. But if you practice it, I think there's no reason you'll be able to handle bigger sets in a workout if it comes up in the future.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah. If anyone feels frustrated about it and wants to feel better about themselves, just go search up Tim Poulsen's video and skip the 7-minute mark and give it a watch and see how angry he gets.
Not where I thought you were going with that one, but glad you did that one and not somebody else that we know. Moving on to moving on to test 3. How did you find actually I'll go first. As alluded to,
what is test 3 just for the people?
Oh, sorry. Yes, 5 rounds, 1 clean and jerk at 275 and 200 was it? Let me find it.
185.
Of course it was. 185.
Yep.
So it was 5 burpee box jump overs. For the men, it was 30 inches. For the females, it was 24 inches. And 1 clean and jerk. And then it's 5 rounds for time. You add a clean and jerk every round. So it'd be 5 burpee box jump over, 1 clean and jerk, 5 burpee box jump over, 2 clean and jerk, etc., all the way up to 5. I, going into this one, I hadn't lifted anywhere near that in a while. I think the heaviest I've lifted in the last 6 months is probably like a 115 clean and jerk. So didn't really know how this was going to go. Warmed up to it, hit 120 as a warm up and was just like, okay, cool, ready to go. Went into it, hit the first one, was pretty stoked, and then was able to just sort of ride that wave. The issue for me was the jerk. I lost 2 reps out in front of me, so I was able to clean both of them. Lost them both out in front of me, but I think this is a good one. Because of the sort of way the floor was set up, we could only have one person going at a time in BFG. So managed to, Josh Burniston went before me, absolutely smashed it. And as soon as the timer went, I was like, right, okay, I'm ready to go now. Can we go now? Because I want to ride this hype train and keep going. Because we had a load of members that stuck around after a class and were cheering people on. So yeah, it was a very enjoyable workout. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I think it was my best placing as well. Because I'm checking in for the relatively strong but definitely not fit boys, or gymnastically skilled boys. So, how did it go for you?
Yeah, again, it was. I don't know, it went all right. I knew this one on paper, like it was going to be my best finish, regardless of how it went. To be honest, like like my strengths and weaknesses, this one is probably not that surprising. It was my best finish. But yeah, like, I think again, watching Ben Smith, he posted his video. I think he did it in like 540 something. I was like, right, he's taking like his breaks on the bar were in the moment when I was watching, it's like, well, they're quite big breaks. So again, I thought, okay, maybe I could probably match that time, if not beat it. And then yet again, I was humbled in the moment, and the bar just was just a lot harder to recover from between reps, basically. I mean, the goal was to power them, and I managed to do that, which was good, because 130 kg is my PB power clean, so this was at 125 kg, so to actually power all 15 of them was good. Thank you.
We've got the same power clean PB. That's right.
Yeah. What's your full clean?
My full clean, I think it's 125. That tells you an awful lot about. Yeah, it's a big problem. It's a very big problem.
Hashtag Ashley.
Hashtag power athlete.
But yeah, yeah, exactly. So I knew the jerk wouldn't be an issue, as I said that to Ben. He found that ridiculous. But yeah, I thought the jerk would be fine. I know if I got to my shoulders, I wasn't going to fail a rep. They're just getting to my shoulders would be fine. And then watching back the video, the power cleans are all actually pretty easy. Like I caught them quite high. So now I know in the future I can probably push it a bit more. But in the moment, it was quite tough. Like obviously the burpees were what they were. They weren't that hard. Like obviously, like maybe the third round in, they got a bit gassy, but nothing crazy. Literally it's just 5 hops over the box. Did have a trip in there though. I had never tripped over a burpee box jump over like before, and I had the classic, literally the fail. Like my foot just clipped it, I fell over, like landed on my hands. So that was good. But yeah, it was alright. It just the reps just got, as you got deeper in, the round 4 and 5 were basically where it was. If you get through the workout, that's where your time was made up pretty much. But yeah, an alright workout. I think overall thoughts, I think the weight is a bit savage for a quarterfinal levels test to be the set weight for the whole workout. I think if they wanted to entice people maybe to actually give it a go, it probably should have been like an ascending weight. Same reps, but you could have maybe started at a slightly lighter weight and you could have finished at a heavier weight. So you could have gone 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The first weight could have been at like 225, then I don't know, like 245, 275, 300 and 315 or something, which might have been a bit more inclusive. But at the same time, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I was just like, well, whatever, just get better. So the test to say about that, really.
The test is not meant to be inclusive. The test is meant to find the fittest people to send to semi-finals. Would be my argument. So, and
yeah,
I like
what their argument is.
Yeah, and I think that the test that you've described is something we would have seen like 2 or 3 years ago. And would have been a fair test because it's what, and this is, I sort of see Boz coming in and attempting to subvert our expectations. Like, if you look at what we sort of predicted and the way that we predicted things, in terms of rep schemes and styles of workout, I think we were thinking along the lines of sort of classic CrossFit. This is how they do things. Whereas he's come in and just sort of said, "No, you know what? Let's do things slightly differently. Let's build rep schemes that look a little bit different," like this one as an example, which I'm, and again, it's just a change in the sport. We've had one person write the workouts essentially for the past 10 years, and now it's someone else.
But then also saying that point about how this test is to find the people who are going to go to the next stage. The only issue I have with that is that as a sport and as a business, if you're trying to grow it a bit and you want more participation and more income, basically, you want as many sign-ups as possible at this stage because it's just another revenue stream for CrossFit. So if you put out workouts that are going to deter people, that's a bit of a problem. But if they don't care about that, then that's fine. But as we know, like there was a drop in sign-ups of people who did technically qualify to the people who actually did sign up. And I think large part of that would be down to some of the workouts and then being like, well, I'm not going to do this because I just can't do it. So they just sacked it off basically.
Yeah. Just on that.
If CrossFit don't care, then it's fine. But if they do, then that is a slight issue.
To quote those numbers, I got these from Chalking Fitness on Instagram. Always worth a follow if you care to see a little bit more about stats around what's going on. The European signups, I think there were 2,477 total and that was 41% of the eligible people, because there was 6,015 people eligible on the male side. On the female side, 1,514 signed up. That was 38%. And in the UK, you had 50% of the men signing up, so that's 493, and 379 women signing up, so that was 47%. So even if you look in the UK, that is, talking of lost revenue, $24,000 that they've lost just in the UK alone.
Yeah, that's just one country.
And on the on the male side, that was just the male side. So if I look at the female side as well, I picked that number because it was 50%. I can work out the 50%, but it's a significant amount of income that could be going to
It's a lot.
Could be going to grow the affiliates, could be going to any number of different things. Yeah,
Video review.
Here we go. And like from a commercial standpoint, it's not you need to make these tests look like something that is achievable and fun to do. I'm turning around and saying they're fun to do after doing them. And that's with me doing on that first day, with the crossover double unders, having 2 placings, the crossover double unders, single unders, and the handstand walks, having 2 placements that were in the bottom, like 2% of people who did it. So, and like, but I'm okay enough to accept that. Like, some people aren't okay enough to accept that. Some people want to show off what they can do. And so having those skill gaps in there, I think, is a little bit difficult, which I imagine internally, Mr. Bosman reporting back to, right, well, we expected to take in this much revenue and this is how much we took in, and them trying to ascertain exactly what the reasoning is behind that. I think it's a fairly clear, there's a fairly clear reason behind it, and it's the type of test that we saw. But anyway, I really love test 3. I think you did as well.
How many reps did you actually get? I can't even remember what you got.
I got 1 into the round of 3.
Nice.
So I failed 1
I was
in the
52. Yeah.
Yeah, you finished it, obviously. I failed 1 in the round of 2, so I failed my second one, then got back and got it, and then I failed. I think I may have failed 2 or 3. No, 1 or 2 in the final set. I lost the bar in front of me both times. I just didn't get under it enough, and really did not drop down in my split jerk enough either. So yeah, but we take the wins where we can.
Yeah, no, it's not too bad. Right, we'll move on to workout 4. And this was, again, another controversial movement in there. So it was a 20-minute AMRAP of a 1K row into 50 GHD sit-ups, into a 500-meter row, into 25 V sit-ups. So again, those V sit-ups were the main talking point of the workout. I don't think they were the crux of the workout at all, but they were just a big talking point. New movement. Again, no one probably ever practices them. They're probably old school CrossFit if we just go look back at the journals. So you shouldn't be too surprised to see them. But again, no one does them. And then classic, like just the movement standards were, just definitely not upheld. But what can you do? That just happens every year. So, yeah, I mean, interesting test. I don't think we thought this was going to be the long one.
No.
But with the row in there, I think looking back, we probably should have thought about that really, because there was a row. Like I think just because I think we focused on the GHD volume and like there's no way it can be long because of the GHD volume. But then at the same time, like, well, we have a rower, so they can just make the row long and that'll take up most of the time, which it pretty much did. So I mean, I think it was actually a good test. Again, no proper pain threshold. Like obviously you can push the row a bit, but it came down to, as Ben said at the start, your midline capacity on those GHDs, and then could you recover? And then I think personally I found the sit-ups actually the hardest bit in terms of like the burn. Like it was a deep burn while doing them, but then once you go back to the row, you could recover again. And the GHDs were a bit of a slog, but still managed to do them unbroken and keep chipping away. But yeah, I thought the sit-ups were actually the toughest bit, which I think Boz probably knew that. That's why he put them in there.
Yeah, I found that I broke up.
How did it go for you?
I broke up the GHDs a little bit more, just because my capacity isn't up there with yours, I'd probably say. And I knew that going in. So I was like, look, that is just, drop it down a little bit. I then came out of the first set of GHDs and thought I'd paced it okay. And then struggled to lift my leg up, left leg up to put it back into the rower. And I was like, I might have gone a little bit too hot here. and then panicked for the next 500 meters on the rower. Got to the V-ups and was just like, "Well, here we are. This is it now. You can't really do it. You've made your bed. Sleep in it." And yeah, just pushed the pace as hard as I could. I think, yeah, it's just dictated by what your capacity was. Like, the row was, you know what row pace you can hold. You're not going to push the row pace exceptionally, particularly because it was meters as well. Like, there's not, rowing a 150 versus a 140. Like, you're saving yourself 30 seconds in a round, which, yeah, can probably make a little bit of a difference, but it's probably going to fatigue you significantly more as well, I'd probably say.
Yeah, well, that paces it would. That's a big gap at those paces.
But
at the same point, that's what we were saying. We're planning it. We were the same things. Like, basically, we were saying just row at a 5K pace, pretty much. And then, because there's no stress if you rowed a 150 versus a 145. Like, on that first round, you're going to come off 10 seconds slower than someone else. And if you literally just hold your GHDs unbroken at the same pace, you literally could pass them. So there's literally no stress on that. I think the only stressful thing was, well, for me, it was held a nice pace on the row, and then GHDs were good. Pace again. The pace on the row was actually fine through the whole workout. And then the only thing in the back of my mind was mathematically knowing I'm going to finish on the row here, and it's going to really suck trying to sprint for the last minute. And I was a bit scared. It's like, because you just know finishing a workout, sprinting on a machine, that feeling afterwards is always horrendous. I was having flashbacks to the first open workout as well, where it was the same thing for me. I finished on that row, and I was not panicking, but I was like, oh my gosh, this is going to hurt so much. So I was like mentally preparing for myself when I was doing my last V sit-ups before I crawled back onto the rower and started that last slog to the finish line. But yeah, I mean, it was a good workout. Again, the V sit-ups were a little wrinkle in there. I mean, not a bad movement. They just look a bit silly, and the standards are just a bit wishy-washy. But again, what can you do about that? Not much.
Not program them.
Well, exactly. So that's the only thing you could do. But just don't think really.
Clearly articulate which part of the foot they want you to touch. Make it so that that you don't have to bend your legs. You have to keep them straight. Enforce a slightly stricter standard. There's a lot of things you can do. But for some people, as we've seen highlighted in the community, it wasn't the this that was the issue on the V-ups. It was potentially whether they actually stayed on the rower for their whole rower time as well, which was quite interesting. Mr. 7th worldwide. It's there's always going to be some skirting of the rules and regulations, but I think the issue that you run into is that CrossFit constantly create a rod for their own back by doing things like this, where the standard is ambiguous. It makes it very it makes it very subjective. It leaves it open to interpretation, and you end up struggling with it. But needless to say, I think we'll all just be doing more V-ups in our training, and I can't really wait for that.
Yeah, well, we'll touch on that then. That point you just made about, CrossFit and all the standard stuff. Well, we were talking before about Jake Berman. So basically, for those who don't know, during quarterfinals, Training Think Tank basically brought in CrossFit Games level judges who judge at the games at the highest level, judging the highest level athletes hired by CrossFit themselves. So they brought them in to judge their high level athletes this past weekend for quarters. And then I believe it was workout 1. Was that correct, Ben?
Yes.
That Jake Berman submitted a score. And then, I don't know, that evening or whatever, he got notified that he got a big penalty. I think it was over a minute or something on workout 1. And then basically, Training just came back to CrossFit saying, well, we've literally used your judges to judge our athlete in person, and they said the reps were fine during the workout, and now you've gone back and watched the video and said they're not good. So which is it, basically? Just interesting that
his score
themselves can't even just keep consistency.
His score is still the adjusted score on the leaderboard. So I think he previously had Jake Berman, I think, is someone that we've both talked about as definitely has the capacity to be a games level athlete in this particular workout, which is an inverted pressing workout. He is world class and I think he had a top 10 score initially before the adjustment. He's now 73rd. Like, he's still in a qualifying spot, so it hasn't damaged him that much. But it is a it's a bizarre situation that we're in. It's almost like the judging at the games maybe isn't that great either. I don't know. It's a it's a difficult one for us to call. I
wish I could see the person's face who reading that email, like corresponding to Training Think Tank. Just imagining the email coming back from Think Tank saying, "We've literally used your judges you use at the games. Like, these are the people you pay to be qualified judges for our highest level competition." And they said all the reps were good. And someone really like, "Oh, well, this is awkward." Just like,
and I think for some context, for those who at high level competitions, the judges' ruling on the floor stands. So CrossFit will always back their judge.
There's no video review in live competitions, basically.
No.
So, yeah.
I mean, I've been privy to a couple, but yeah, invariably nothing has changed unless there is, a significant amount of evidence against it. But particularly at the games, they favor the judge's ruling on the floor. But yeah, it's a very opaque and bizarre situation that they found themselves in, and I'm excited to see what else comes of it, because I imagine this isn't it. Because have you seen Noah's Test 5?
I have actually. I watched it last night. They on the podcast. They watched it with it, didn't they?
What did you think of his deadlift?
Oh, well, actually, this is the thing. I paused each one. If you pause them, he looks fine. But in the moment, they don't look good.
Yeah.
If you just watch them with your naked eye, they don't look like it's extended at all. But if you pause each one, they actually look all right. So again, that's a problem. So video review, people love to pause videos and call out no reps. But sometimes you pause a video, their extension's actually sometimes fine.
Yeah.
He was saying, I'll try my best to get my shoulders behind the bar, fully extend my hips. And I was watching, it's like, really? And I paused it. And to be fair, when you pause it, he's pretty much straight up. So they do just move that fast. That's the thing people don't realize as well.
Yeah.
So, I mean, go watch it for yourself. Training Think Tank, Corpus Analyst podcast on YouTube. They do Noah's Workout 5. Go give it a watch, see what you would say. But yeah, if I was judging that in person, I'd be like, those deadlifts aren't great. But when you pause them, he actually looks fine. So again, it's tough. It's just, that's CrossFit for you.
And,
when you're
it's a front on angle. Yeah. And it's a front on angle as well.
Doesn't help either.
So,
no.
But yeah.
Right. Cool.
So we've had a little...
A Workout 5.
On that note, Test 5. Yeah. There we go. Workout 5.
So Test 5 was... Oh, you go then.
Go on, you go.
I think we lagged up.
All right, fine, I'll go. 21 deadlifts at 225 for the male and 155 for the female. Into 21 chest to bar pull-ups. 15 deadlifts at 275 and 185. 15 bar muscle ups, 9 deadlifts at 315 and 205. So the male weights were 102, 125, and 143. Female weights were 70, 83, and 93 as well. Oh, and 9 rope climbs to finish as well. I don't think I said that.
I'm gonna say,
I definitely remember those rope climbs.
But yeah, this is just the inverse of Test 1. So Test 1 was squat and press, and this is pull, and then pull gymnastics. And obviously you had the cute little reverse rep scheme. So obviously the first one was 9 up to 21, and this one was 21 down to 9. So nice little, wink wink from probably Boz, who wrote it, thinking he was being cute with it. So, but yeah, how did it go for you then, Ben, this last one?
On paper, I thought this would be my best. But I've always had my grip is a weakness. It's something that I probably need to spend some time on. Yep. Weak forearm boys checking in from the Dysfunctional Fitness Podcast. So I broke everything up significantly more than I probably should have. Like I went 6, 5, 5, 5 on the first set of deadlifts, same on the chest bar, 5 sets of 3 on the second set of deadlifts. The bar muscle ups went 4, 3, 3, 3, 2, 1. Does that work? No, 2, 2. Whatever the numbers are. I actually ended with a single because I failed the penultimate rep, or I was scared that my grip was going to go. So I went into the final set of deadlifts and the final and the rope climbs feeling like my grip was already gone, and I was like, brilliant. I thought I was pacing this correctly. Clearly, I haven't. The fatigue of the weekend is catching up with me. Did the 9 deadlifts in a set of 3 and then singles after, just to try and preserve it from getting any worse. And then went in with the 9 rope climbs, and it took me till 12, 11-ish to get those rope climbs done, which I think was about 4 minutes. And I would say I'm a pretty proficient rope climber. So that was a little bit of a kick in the teeth, which I imagine it's a similar sort of position that I would have got to in the other workouts as well. That's obviously the intent of the workout. But it's the final one of the weekend. You're kind of mentally checked out at that point. You don't have anything on the line. And I think just trying to get that done and get it finished is all you really care about. But yeah, my grip was just like my forearms just actively hurt right now. And I think that's my state of being for the next 2 weeks. That's just where I'm at right now. How'd it go for you?
Brilliant. I mean, sort of similar, but I suppose the time's a bit faster, but the same, everything, like, it's all relative, but, yeah, I mean, I knew going this would be my worst one, just my grip fatigue, like, limitation is just my biggest weakness, so I wasn't too surprised at how I do. The goal for me, I watched Tim Poulsen do his, and he did it in like 6:35, I think. And he's obviously games level, and he's got a grip limitation, but again, it's relative. So I watched that and I was like, maybe sub 8 would be a good target. So I just went in with that as like my goal. So I went 3 sets. I just basically, Tim Poulsen also went 3 sets on his first deadlift, so I'll do that. So I went 3 sets on the first deadlifts. He broke the chest bar into 3 sets, so I'll do that as well. So I did that. That was all fine. And then he broke the second deadlift into 3 sets. So I'll do that as well. But I went 4 sets because my grip was already blowing out. And then he did the muscle-ups unbroken. I was like, I can't do that. So I did 5 sets of 3 with quick breaks in between. And then I did the 143 kg bar in 3 sets of 3. And then I got to rope climbs. I managed to do them in about 2 minutes 30, which I was fairly happy with. I know my rope climbs aren't, I've been working on them, so they're half decent. But yeah, the grip fatigue was massive. I remember after the pain actually kicked in afterwards. It was about 3-4 minutes after like the adrenaline worn off. Both my forearms, like the pump was ridiculous. Like I was just doubled over on my knees, like what is going on with my arms? I really didn't think, like, it felt bad in the moment, but more just a puffy feel that, I'm going to blow out, I can't grip onto something. But the actual physical pain only kicked in afterwards, and that was rough. But yeah, annoyingly, I finished in 8:10, so I was 10 seconds over my target goal. And I mean, looking back, the easiest way to save some time on that would have just been to instead on the muscle ups, doing 5 sets of 3 and with a 10-15 second break in between is where I lost quite a lot of time. So turning that into 3 sets of 5 would have been a bit more efficient. And then same with the deadlift, the middle bar, 3 sets instead of 4 would have been the little areas I could have saved some time on. But I mean, I wasn't too upset with it. That I just know my capacity at that point. So similar to you, I was like, oh, let's just get this over with. Like, it was quite weird finishing on the 9 rope climbs. Like XB said, the heart rate wasn't that jacked. It was like, oh, I've just got to slog through these 9 climbs, and we're done. But yeah, I mean, it was all right. I think on paper it was quite a cool test. We were actually saying afterwards, I think it would have been actually a really cool test to watch like elites do in like a race format, because it is grippy. Obviously for them, that top time still crushed it, but maybe a different type of rep scheme. But then watching people go up and like really risk their final few rope climbs would have been like a good race to watch. Maybe for the elites, like a legless, because I think the normal ones were fairly easy for them. But yeah, it definitely, I don't know about you, but I found pretty much the strategy for this was just setting yourself up for those rope climbs. It didn't really matter how fast or slow you went to get to them, obviously relative, but if you paced it fine, then you could try churn out those rope climbs at a decent clip, because we had like my mate Ben do it with us, and he is very strong lad on the deadlift. He's pretty good at gymnastics, so we both said, like me and Alex both said, you could probably win this, like out of the 3 of us, you can probably beat us and do quite well. And he got to the rope climbs at I'm going to say like 450, 445. But then he like pretty much blew up and took about it literally took about the same time on the rope climbs to do the rest of the same workout. So I think he finished at 9:30. So that showed that pushing that first bit maybe isn't like always the best strategy, and how impactful those rope climbs were. But yeah, I mean, you compare that to the elite scores, like they just made a mockery of it, like low 4s. It's just ridiculous for those top times.
Absolute madness from some of those. Yeah.
I watched Feldman's recap last night. He's just so like nonchalant about it. He's just at home,
like a beer at the start. Yeah.
I don't know. He does it quite often, but he's just sitting at home and he's just like, so like, I don't know, just try to do quick breaks and just chill and just do some quick climbs, and that was it really. In like 4 minutes 6 seconds, whatever it was. I was like, brilliant.
409. Yeah. Madness.
409.
Absolute
that's
madness.
Crazy. But again, I said like the theme, this was again some moderate to heavyish weight with some gymnastic skill. Nothing we haven't seen, but just that type of structure to the workout was again something we haven't really seen. Again, your heart rate's not going through the roof. It's just who can more pace and strategize well to set themselves up for that last movement. Very similar to the first workout, just came down to that last movement. Okay, obviously this time it was a pull versus a push. But yeah, very similar themes. And I think that was very deliberate by Boz, pretty much.
Yeah, most definitely.
Well, that was quarters. So that's our little recap of how it went for us and our view. So we're going to end this episode here. So this was just a little recap of quarters, our opinions on what the workouts were and just how they went for ourselves. We're going to record a separate episode just looking at the European and like UK leaderboards, as we feel like we'll give a bit more attention to those, and it deserves a bit more time than just a little rushed section at the end. So there'll be 2 separate episodes pretty much. You've got this one of our thoughts, and then we'll have a European and UK leaderboards little roundup. But yeah, see you in the next one. Goodbye.
See ya.